It started the week before Thanksgiving. Our family had managed to snag an old farmhouse on the outskirts of a small town in rural Pennsylvania, where my husband, Matthew, had accepted a job offer that promised a slower, simpler life. We moved in autumn, when the leaves had turned to shades of amber and gold, a serene facade hiding the creaks and groans of a house that seemed to have its own unsettling personality. The first evening, when the movers had gone and the last box was tucked away in a corner of the living room, I stepped outside. The air was crisp, and the mist rolled over the hills like ghostly tides. It should have felt peaceful, but instead, a heaviness lingered in the atmosphere. I chalked it up to exhaustion from unpacking and tried not to dwell on the unease that settled in the back of my mind. The kids, Emma and Simon, adapted quickly, as children do. They loved exploring the huge backyard and the small wooded area beyond it. For them, the world was full of possibilities and imaginary adventures. It was a delight to watch their excitement, though I started to feel an unexplainable sense of disconnection, a growing distance between the exterior charm and a rising internal disquiet. The house itself was old, with long corridors and faded wallpaper peeling from moisture. On several occasions, I would hear faint sounds, a distant footstep, soft murmurs, a door creaking upstairs, even when there was no one else home. I tried to ignore these things, but the sounds were persistent, like echoes from another time woven into the fabric of the house. One afternoon, while unpacking our books, I found a small, leather-bound journal wedged behind a loose panel in the living room. Curious, I opened it. The handwriting was ornate, belonging to a previous occupant whose name was not discernible from the scrawl. The entries were mundane at first, recounting daily chores and weather updates, but gradually started to mention the whispering. It gave me pause, especially when the writer detailed an overwhelming sense of being watched. Each page felt like a warning, a hint of a story waiting silently in the walls. As weeks passed, Emma, usually energetic and cheerful, became quieter, often staring out the window with a pensive look on her face. When I asked her about it, she shrugged and mentioned a friend she had met in the woods. Assuming it was an imaginary companion, as children often create, I didn't press further initially, but couldn't shake off an unsettling feeling. One late evening, Matthew and I sat on the back porch to enjoy a rare moment of peace. The night was still except for the soft rustling of leaves. As we talked, I caught a glimpse of movement in the periphery, a shadow darting from the edge of the woods. It was fleeting, barely noticed, yet enough to send a chill down my spine. Matthew laughed it off as a deer, something normal, but inside I conjured up images of a dark silhouette lurking just out of view. Things took a turn when Simon became inexplicably ill. Feverish and pale, his condition swung between bouts of inexplicable shivers and fever dreams, often muttering under his breath about the thing on the stairs. Doctors could find nothing overtly wrong, attributing it to a viral infection and suggesting rest. Yet his symptoms persisted, and a disturbing vibe of malaise and fear pooled into every corner of the house. Around this time, strange occurrences became frequent. Doors would be ajar that I was certain we had closed. Electronics quietly fizzled with static, and the chilling sensation of being watched became palpable, a weight pressing down with invisible eyes. At night, when all was still, I would often awaken to small sounds, the scuff of a footstep, the hushed whisper of breath close to my ear, only to find myself alone. The kitchen became a focal point of dread. Several mornings, the dishes, which were clean the night before, appeared smeared and stained on the countertops, as if someone or something was playing a twisted, mocking game. It was unsettling to wake up to signs that someone had been there during the night, rummaging through our lives while we slept unsuspecting. Desperate for reassurance, I spent evenings researching the history of our home, uncovering vague stories about a previous owner who had disappeared without a trace. Neighbors were reticent to share details, their faces tight with unease whenever I mentioned our address. The word cursed hovered unsaid but heavily present, lingering in the air. Emma's behavior grew stranger. Often I found her conversing quietly with her friend in the woods, sometimes giggling, other times whispering harshly as if in argument. Concerned, I approached her about it. Her response was unsettling. "She doesn't like the house. She wants us to come with her." When pressed, she couldn't describe what "with her" meant, leaving me with more questions, uncertainty gnawing at me like a festering wound. With the approach of winter, the days grew shorter and the shadows longer. The house felt colder and more hostile, as if rejecting us. Then one night, everything came to a head. Awoken by a loud crash from downstairs, both Matthew and I bolted upright. The hallway was unlit, but a strange illumination seeped from beneath the door at the end of the hallway, a door we rarely used. Fear coursed through my veins. I didn't want to open that door, didn't want to confront whatever was behind it, but ignoring it was not an option. Together we entered the dark corridor, the air prickling with static. As we reached for the handle, there it was again, the soft murmur, impossible to be mistaken for the hiss of wind or creak of beams. It was human, yet not. Inside the unused room, our breath froze in our throats. The room was empty, save for the shifting shadows that seemed to curl and whisper among themselves. Against the far wall, I noticed the previously unnoticed outline of a boarded-up door frame, seemingly the source of all the disquiet. A faint scratching sound originated from the other side. We hesitated, our fears spinning wild, half-formed images of what lay beyond. Rationality clashed with instinct, the need to flee fighting the urge to understand. In the oppressive silence of the moment, Matthew's face was rigid, etched with lines of fear mirrored in my own. Deep inside, we both knew the truth. The house, in its subdued hostility, had been crying out for release, a story waiting to unspool in cold, echoing emptiness. As the night wore on, we abandoned sleep, instead sitting like wardens at a vigil until dawn. With the rising sun, the unease lifted, if only slightly. The door remained shut, whatever lay behind it, now a slumbering enigma veiled in daylight's merciful glare. Matthew decided it was time to move, to shed the dread-laden shadows from which we could find no respite. A weekend was enough to pack and leave, the prospect of shedding the house's oppressive aura exhilarating. Our departure was swift, but as we drove away, I glanced back at the house. For the first time, I noticed Emma's face pressed against the back window, not glancing at the house, but at the woods beyond. Her eyes held a longing, melancholic depth, as if leaving something, someone behind. In our new place, Simon's health improved, laughter returned, and life regained a semblance of normality. Yet, from time to time, I find Emma standing at the window, looking toward distant trees. Her friend never mentioned again, but the silence leaves an echo too deeply carved to dismiss.